Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome students to the online NPTEL course Contemporary Architecture and Design. In the previous class we discussed the phase 3 where we have seen that tensile and shell structure started flourishing, and it was their aesthetic preference and the stylistic approach was different from the internationalist as well as the monolithic movements. So today we will discuss about the other architectural movement of phase 3 modernism, and this is almost on the verge of transferring from modernism to postmodernism. So this is the where the amalgamation between the modernism and postmodernism are happening, and these movements are after the World War I and World War II. So a lot of influences of these movements were carried towards the postmodernist architecture as well as the design. So today we'll discuss architectural movement Brutalism. So this is typically an architectural movement, and because this evolved from the material preference of architecture, so this brutalist movement was not seen in art and design, because we will see how brutalism evolved and what is the concept of brutalism. So brutalism and metabolism was two other architectural movement that flourished at the end of modernist era. So if we look at the timeline from pre-modern, so we have passed phase 1 where there were different architectural styles, and which was away from each other, and before that we started with the two absolute opposite pole for the machine and against the machine, which started with the machine aesthetics, and another started with the craftsmanship and the biomorphic design. And then in the phase 1 there were different movements. In phase 2 there was one particular internationalist movement and the continuum of that, which is monolithic form. And then we have seen a little more preference was given to the aesthetics. So we have seen a tensile and shell. So after that, so these phase, which is phase 3, is also called late modern or the ultra modern, where the Gauguin architecture, tensile and shell was there, and as well as brutalism and metabolism. So these brutalism, metabolism, tensile and shell transformed and changed their style and percolated in the postmodern movement. So we will discuss about brutalism today. So this is a typical example of metabolism. Also this can also fall under brutalism. So brutalism and metabolism, as we discuss, we will see that many of the architecture style which can fall under brutalism as well as in the metabolism movement. So the architectural features of brutalism, this flourished between 1950s to 1970s. Also it was carried forward later in different form of neo-brutalism or new brutalism, and this term is actually came from a French term brut, which means concrete. So brutalism does not, in many of the times it looks visually very heavy, and sometimes people think that this term came from brutal aesthetics, like in art we have discussed Fauvism, so which looks it's not similar as Fauvist movement, or the brutal term is not the etymological source. So the term brute means concrete. So this came from a material preference. This architectural movement was only confined within the domain of architecture. It did not go to design and art, because concrete was the main texture and the material which was shown. So the exposed concrete construction was the first was the prime stylistic feature of the brutalism. So British architect Allison and Peter Smithson started designing with experimenting with this kind of structure. Then the term baton brut, which in French means raw concrete, which was used by Le Corbusier, the famous French architect, who also have many examples, many of his architectural design which is in India, especially in Chandigarh. He have designed the Chandigarh's city plan as well as many of the important buildings of Chandigarh, and he described this his material preference, and he connoted the term baton brut, and from there the brutalism, this movement, the word came from that. So when we were discussing the monolithic architectural style, we discussed the metastasis form, where we have discussed the proportion Le modular, which was designed by Le Corbusier, and he have implied that in many of his design, like Ronchamp Cathedral and other designs. So all these examples which we have discussed in other movements where the exposed concrete was the prime material, which was the material preference of Le Corbusier, that can also fall under brutalism. So architecture is not just one movement ends and then other movement starts, so there can be a continuum, and many of the examples can fall under different other movement. So those examples which you can place under monolithic style, and also in tensile and shell, we have discussed one of the Le Corbusier example where form and function both came together, which is Ronchamp Cathedral, which can also be connoted under brutalism, because the exposed concrete was the main material of that building. Now there is another term from this. It started with the concrete. So concrete, because of that the brutalist movement started, but later concrete got replaced with many other material. So one was brick. So from there a brick brutalism movement started. So many of the cases we will see that exposed brick was used, and no plaster, no cladding was used. So the raw texture of the brick, the original material and the texture of the brick will be visible in the building. So that movement is called brick brutalism. So brutalism, this term although came from concrete, but brick brutalism uses only brick, mostly brick as a key prime material. So brick brutalism is that, and many of the cases we will see also brick sometimes can be replaced by stone as well. So all these movements which has the similar look and other architectural features of brutalism, which we will discuss, will be falling under brutalism. And from brutalism there was a neo-brutalist movement started, so where brutalist movement blended with metabolism. So we will discuss metabolism and then we will discuss the neo-brutalist movements which will come after that. So other features of this, because it started with concrete, now it can also be brick, now sometimes it can also be stone. So what is the visual feature of brutalism? So it is not, it started with the material, but it has a visual principle which connotes the brutalist movement. So features which derive from the pure material and the process of construction will be visible. So the pure material which can be concrete, can also be brick and sometimes stone, which will be visible. So this purity of material, this is coming from this internationalist movement, where we have seen that pure color and pure material was very important. So here they are not using the color, but the material preference was very important, and showing the pure material was one of the key characteristics, and the process of construction. So all this columns, beams and everything will be visible, and we'll see how they have shown the process of construction and this everything which will be visible from outside. So this is also visually heavy structure. So in internationalist movement there was a tendency to make the architectural the structure visually light. For that we have seen that it was elevated on pilotis, sometimes elevated on a overhang of a platform, which we have seen in Francois House, and there was extensive use of glass which looks visually light. So use of glass in brutalism was very minimal. So if we look at the facade in internationalist movement, majority of this facade from outside, the elevation, we will see glass, which is a very lightweight material. But in brutalism we will see that most of the materials will be from outside, the facade will be very visually heavy. Now if this is totally a glass curtain wall, so and with very light steel membranes, so this building from outside, the fenestration is heavier, the ratio of the fenestration of glass is much more than the concrete and steel. But here in the brutalism we will see the fenestration ratio of the fenestration will be very less. So that is absolutely opposite to the internationalist movement, where the fenestration or the visual percolation between inside indoor and outdoor was much higher. And in brutalism we will see the fenestration is very less, and the concrete or the brick wall will be very heavy. And this architectural design looks visually light, and this looks visually heavy because concrete has a heavier material, and this has the fenestration becomes much more opaque than transparent. This was very transparent. That was the key features of the internationalist movement. And in monolithic, it got a little diluted because of the form. So many of the times the forms were made out of concrete shells and others, and in brutalism the transparency become very less, and so this building looks very opaque in nature and visually heavy. And also the overhang and floating elevated cantilevers were not there in this brutalist structure. So this will be much more and the process of construction will be shown. So the concrete columns and beams will be visible from outside, so that it looks very visually heavy. And the new brutalism, which we will discuss later after we discuss metabolism, because it's a combination of metabolism and brutalism. This was started in Siam, the Congress International de Architecture Moderne, which was there in the which happened in the France. So International Congress of Modern Architecture, if we translate that in English. The new brutalism was evolved, what we were discussing. So the aesthetics of the brutalist movements, because the brutalist movement was based on the aesthetic of a particular style. So there was a guideline of brutalism movement was aesthetics. For example, if we look at the guideline of Bauhaus movement was functionalism. So the building has to be functionally very strong. And then there was a few material preference, few stylistic preference, like it has to be cuboidal, and few color preference that only pure color has to be there. But in case of brutalism, it was purely aesthetic. So aesthetically it should look heavy, and aesthetically these are the materials which has to come and then it will fall under brutalist movement. So the aesthetics of brutalism was taken from brutalist movement, and the ethics or the functional or the process of construction was taken from metabolism. When we discuss metabolism, then we'll understand what is the ethics of or the functional requirement of metabolism, how it blended. So the true material and true to design. So the design principle was taken from the metabolism, because metabolism was only based on the principle of design. So the principle of design was taken from the metabolism, and the aesthetics, the aesthetic stylistic guidelines were taken from the brutalism. And then the neo brutalist movement started, which was again transformed into the many other postmodern movements. So we will discuss when we discuss the postmodernist movement later on. So if we look at this example of brutalist movement, this is Yale School of Art and Design. This is called Rudolph Hall because this has been designed by Paul Rudolph. This is in 1963 when it got completed. Now this example we will also discuss this in neo brutalist movement because this also has the features of metabolism as well as brutalism. So this actually falls under neo brutalist movement, but this is an example of brutalist movement as well. From outside, if we look at, so this building is made out of concrete, and the concrete is visible from outside. There's no plaster done from the outside of the concrete. So the formwork of the concrete will be visible. The formwork is what we, if we look at the construction process. So there can be steel from formwork. There can be wooden formwork. So formwork is outside skeleton, and which we have to design before construction. So if this is a formwork of the steel formwork, and the concrete will be poured within the void of this, and then because the concrete is a semi-liquid, this is a mixture of different aggregates, cement, sand, and stone chips. So that's a muddy mixture. So that will be poured within that, and then this shuttering will be removed. So that is the formwork. And when there are many shutterings, so if this is two steel plate, so when you remove this, and this concrete wall will have the marks of the shutters. So if there are two screws, so screw marks will be there, and in between this between these two shutters there will be a small line, thin narrow line of shuttering. And it depends on what is the process of shuttering, and different types of shuttering can give different kind of marks. So if you look at exposed concrete wall from outside, the shutterings mark will be visible from outside, and that becomes a aesthetic feature, and that was exposed, and that was a stylistic feature of the brutalist movement. So from outside, if we look at, so there will be a lot of marks of shuttering in the brutalist building, and that is the stylistic feature. And if you look at the building looks very robust in nature, and as I was telling that the amount of fenestration versus the solid concrete wall was very less. The amount of fenestration was very less, and if you look at this wall only has a little bit of fenestration over there, and all over this wall is solid concrete wall. And even if you look at this construction members were quite thick. So these were not thin slender steel members, so these were thick concrete members, which also looks very opaque and visually strong. And there were a lot of elements added in that, so which also gives a lot of volume into the building. And the figure ground relationship, or the play with the massing was created, was giving a very solid look. Now if we look at the floor plates, this is a 7-story building, and there was a lot of difference in the floor level within that. But from outside, if you look, so these are the service cores which you can see from outside as well. So there was service cores which is coming and which is going above the floor plates. So this is the excess height of the service cores, and these services are again protruding out, which can be visible from outside, and has a different existence which was not merged within the built volume. So this was coming out, and these service cores are coming out of this building volume. So these services, and treating the services in a different way, is the style of metabolism which we will discuss. That's why this comes under the neo brutalism, where the ethics or the principles of design, where the service core will have a visual emphasis, was the process of doing metabolism. That's why brutalism and metabolism sometimes they are blended with each other. And then the neo brutalism, many of the examples of brutalism are within the neo brutalism. Now another example of brutalist movement is Kuranashi Kurashiki City Hall in Japan, which is designed in 1960s by Kenzo Tange, one of the very famous designer and architect of Japan. Now, after the World War, before World War, most of the movements and architectural movements started in Europe and then came to USA. But after World War, we will see a lot of movements and from brutalism, and also we have seen in shell structure and tensile structure Kenzo Tange's work. So works were there started happening all over the world, and Japan was in the shell structure and tensile structure was also there in the Japan, and Kenzo Tange have designed Olympic Stadium using tensile structure. Now Japan started Japan has a lot of examples of brutalism and metabolism. This third phase of modernist movement as well as the postmodern movements were also predominantly happened in Japan and the Asian countries. So Kenzo Tange is one of the examples in brutalism is Kurashiki City Hall. If we look at from outside, so it also has a very robust structure from outside. A lot of grids are visible and thick platforms, thick pillars are there. You can think that this has a anti-gravity look, but this is not, because if you look at the building mass, this does not give a visually lightweight look. So this is not the concept of pilotis which was given by Le Corbusier in internationalist movement, because if you look at the amount of fenestration, the fenestration's area is quite low if you compare with the internationalist movement. From inside also the service cores are well delineated in these, and the void and the service cores were in the central, and the space is around the service core. Now another example of brutalist movement is Joan Miró Museum. Joan Miró was one of the famous painter of modernist movement, and if you want to check his paintings, you can see this. So this is abstract paintings of pure geometric as well as the biomorphic lines, and very solid colors he used to use. Now this is his museum designed by Joseph Sert in which is there in the Barcelona. It's in 1975. So this started from 1950s, almost ended in 1970s, but also went on because many of the architects started using neo-brutalist movement and then changed the style. Now these are the lines of the formwork of the shuttering. So this there might have been a steel shuttering which ended over here, then another shuttering, so there is another mark of the shuttering, so another shuttering could have been ended over here. So these are the marks which comes, and the shuttering is not very smooth, so that's why the concrete structure is not smooth. It has a particular texture which is a tactile texture. If you touch, so there will be a texture of concrete, so it's not very smooth like plaster. So those are the textures. So you can see a little grain, concrete grain within that, so that becomes that is the stylistic feature of concrete. So here also you can see the shuttering lines and the concrete's texture all over the building. So this is also an exposed concrete work, and also if you look at the building volume, the fenestration level was quite low, and then the building looks quite robust in the from the outside. So this is another example by Le Corbusier. This is Maison Joel House. This is a in France. This is designed in 1956. Now here also you will see this brutalism, because this is a movement in third phase. So a lot of percolation of visual style was there from the previous architectural style. So this building has been designed with a series of walls. So these are the walls which is supporting the roof, and on top of that there was a flat roof which was filled in these areas of the vault. vault, and then flat flooring was designed on top of the vault. Now from outside this building, you can call it a brick brutalist architecture as well, because from the vault also the brick is visible. So the vault is constructed with the brick, and from outside facade also the brick is visible. But also there is a concrete solid wall, so there is a mixture of concrete brutalism and the brick brutalism. And also the brutalist style was also there, so it has a solid has much solidity in from outside. And if you compare this with the Le Corbusier's Villa Savoy, Villa Savoy has a very Villa Savoy had a band window, and window has had an emphasis in the design. But here if you look at, so there is no band window, so this fenestration is not the protagonist of this architecture. So the material of the solid material of brick and concrete is visually much more important than this band window which here I have designed in Villa Savoy. Now if we look at the inside of this building, you will see the emphasis of pure color. So from outside this is emphasizing the pure material which is concrete and brick. From inside this is also emphasizing the pure color which which started in Bauhaus movement. But this is definitely not a Bauhaus building, because a lot of elements are there. So there's a vault going on, series of steps of solid and void was there, and this is not a pure cuboidal building. So a lot of elements were added within the building as well. Now you can see this blue, yellow and red color was is taking emphasis in this color palette of the this interior, as well as the green. Green is also used in many of the cases, like for example Frank Lloyd Wright used green instead of blue in his paintings and this interior design. Now also Le Corbusier was a painter, and these colors were dominant on this his painting and the sculpture, and many of the other architectural example when we discuss, we'll see these are the colors he used to sometimes used as an accentuation color with the texture and material of this pure brick and or concrete movements. So this is another example, Marseilles in France by Le Corbusier. In this building also you'll see this brutalist features, the same features where they are very solid wall. And when one way of making the wall look solid is putting the punctuations or the or the fenestration in one particular area, and then this could have been one single punctuation of glass, then it will look, the glass will look heavy. So if there is one in this building, if you put a fenestration like this, the fenestration will have a lot of importance. Now if you treat the fenestration in a different way, for example, if you break the fenestration, but if you don't without reducing the area of the fenestration, then the fenestration will not look very heavy, because here it is a one solid rectangle, but here it is broken. Now if you spread the fenestration all over, then also it will look there's fenestration all over the building. But if you just club the fenestration in one particular area and leave the rest of the area blank, and all of this area becomes very solid, then it will look very solid. So this, in this build kind of treatment, this it will look, there is a visual punctuation, there's more visual connection between inside and out. So their punctuations are scattered in every all over the facade, but in this case these punctuations are only in a particular small place clustered together, and the rest of the areas are left blank, and this is a solid wall. So that's what he is doing, and there's a solid big solid wall. So that's why this the texture of concrete is becoming a protagonist. So which we have also seen in the Yale Center and all over the other examples. So there here there's a lot of punctuation over here. If these punctuations were taken from here and kept here, so this solidity of this total mass will be diluted. Now in these cases also in John Meadows Center, this is the front elevation. From front elevation we will not see much fenestration. So fenestrations, because also there's the museums, so light, if the light comes from top and reflects here and then goes to the installation, so in the section if we look at, so the north light comes from or the south light comes from here, and then it becomes a diffused light, and then if there is a art installation and people are seeing from here, so then there's a diffused light coming in the installation. That is also the functional requirement, but from outside this looks very solid because of the positioning of this fenestration or the windows. So here as well, so we have seen this, and also this fenestration could have been a solid band window like thing, but he's breaking this with lot of different members which is going from passing from each other. So that's why this fenestration is looking visually less. So actually there's a lot of fenestration is there in this building, but because of these members, so these fenestrations are not becoming visually heavy. And also from the bottom, it there's thick solid concrete columns and beams are giving a visual weight in this design. So Le Corbusier have designed many buildings in India as well. So especially his works are there in the Chandigarh. So Parliament building in Chandigarh is designed by Le Corbusier, and also this is a brutalist movement. And Le Corbusier's one of this style was this Bryce Solil, or this device which cuts the sun, which cuts the sun to come within the building. So this is an added treatment of concrete vertical and horizontal members, which also we have seen in this example, is used in Chandigarh because of the climatic conditions, and the inside building has to be protected from the sunlight. So these kind of elements were added on top of the building as a visual element. So in the front facade from this side, so we will see this series of long concrete walls, shear walls, which is holding this inverted vault like structure, which is added on before the building. So building actually stops over here, so this part is added, and this also dilutes the solidity of this thing, because a lot of there's a rhythm, and then solid and void was there. So this stops the sunlight to go inside the building, and this actually helps the building to merge with the nature. So there's a solid building, and if you add these kind of members, and there's a gradual transition from this inside to outside. And if we look at the building from in totality, so this building also is like a cuboidal concrete chunk, and if you look at the members, other members which is coming out of this building was very robust and solid in nature. And this is on top of the assembly hall, and in plan we will see a stop on top of this. So this takes the sunlight from outside, and so this building, though this does not have any outside connection from the elevation side, so it takes light from the top, and so this room becomes well lit from in the daytime. So from this skylight, this light comes from top. But if you look at the shape of this skylight, it looks like a chimney, and which also shows the progress of this area of Punjab, where with the industrial progress with the of the area of Punjab. Now this is another building, High Court building in the Chandigarh Capital Complex, designed by Le Corbusier, and here he have used this 3 accentuation color, which focuses, which marks the entrance. So this is the entrance of the building, which is not in the center but in the other side, is designed like that. So the emphasis is given to the entrance like that. And again the same Bryce Solil was added here, in his design. And if you look at this, this looks like a series of arches which have taken from the Indian Mughal architecture, where we see the series of Mughal arches, and in many forts and castles. So this has been translated into a more modernized format and covered within a cuboidal chunk, and this onion shaped arches were translated into a semicircular fragment of semicircular arch, so that it becomes more modernized. But this creates as a visual connotation with the series of arches which has been taken from the Indian style. So this can be kept in another postmodern movement which is called critical regionalism, where the regionalist visuals and functions were taken within the architectural form, so which was opposite to the internationalist movement, where there was no contextual connection of the building. So this is the same brise soleil which is added on top of the fenestration. So actually the fenestration has a lot of glass works, but when this concrete solid chunks were added on top of this fenestration, it looks more visually robust. So this is the view from the inside. So here this thick shear walls, concrete shear walls were added. Also it gives a visual weight in this building, and there was a lot of big concrete columns which takes the weight of this huge cantilever, is creating a visual weight. And here also this huge cantilever is not creating an anti-gravity weight look, because this might be a cantilever, but this thickness of this cantilever is not what internationalist movement were there. So in internationalist movement there will be very thin cantilever. Even in the Roby house in Prairie architecture style, there was a very thin cantilever will be there, so that looks visually lightweight. But here the cantilever is very thick and it looks visually heavy. So another example of this subcontinent is Louis Khan's Parliament building in Dhaka. So if you look from outside, this Dhaka building also has a pure concrete brutalist architectural style, and from within you can see the formworks, and also there's a little because of this texture, there was a texture added to it. There was a it looks darker in color. So within that, so there's this where there's no texture, so this flat works looks lighter, so there is a texture, so this texture has a darker it appears dark. So from outside, so this also has can be fall under the critical regionalist movement, because Bangladesh has the water is very important in the Bangladesh context, so the water was used in the building, and then this monument looks like a castle within the water, which has taken inspiration from of Bangladesh's kingdoms which was there, and in the fortresses of Bangladesh. And also this has been modernized with the pure circular and triangular and rectangular fenestration. From within this, there's a wall which is added on before the building. So the building, most of the functional elements of the buildings were confined within this space, but there was another free wall which is added on before this building. So you can see that there's this building functions were going on that facade, but another facade is added on top of it, and which gives a very strong solidity in the from the outside of this building. So this also, because of this bilateral symmetry and this robust look, this also gives a visually heavy visual heaviness in the building. So this is the inside of this Parliament building of Dhaka, and this is the skylight on top of this assembly hall of this Parliament building. So if you look at this assembly hall, so these are the the formwork of this assembly hall. You can see a lot of lines which is coming out, which is visible from here. So this formwork has been done with bamboo. So these are the marks of the bamboo. So the series of bamboos were added as the bottom base of the formwork, and because of this curvatures of the bamboo, and on top of that the concrete mixtures were poured, so these lines of these bamboo lines were retained. So this also has the bamboo's texture was embedded within the building, because bamboo was predominantly bamboo is as a natural vegetation which is there in Bangladesh and the northeast of India. So that also creates a connection with the nature within the building, so, which is also opposite to internationalist movement. So this can also be placed within the postmodern movement, the precursor of this postmodern movement of critical regionalism, which we will discuss, where the regionalist elements will be added in the building. But definitely this is a brutalist movement, a building within the brutalist movement. So there are other buildings in the parliament complex, so where he have used the brick brutalist architecture style, but the similar architectural principles were added. So from outside there was another facade which is going on. Many of the functions were happening within. So from outside facade this looks very solid, a chunk of form which has a very less amount of fenestration, visible fenestration. So here there's another way of translating the Mughal arches into the design. So if you look at the arch, so this has been translated into the trabeated form, which is because of the trabeated form looks more modern, because this is square. So trabeated is where you put the beam and then start constructing. So but on top of that there's a slight connotation of the arch. So this arch has been designed by brick, by layering these bricks on after one another, and this concrete member is taking the load of this arch, and which is actually joined with each other. So same is happening with this. So this is also gives the connotation of the Mughal arches of the Indian subcontinent, which is also there in the interior. So these are another photographs of the same building, and so here you can see, so there was another wall added on top of the building to create this geometric patterns and as well as the solidity. So you can see the other functions were happening where there was much more, because of the need of these functions, there was much more fenestration which was there within the building, but because of this robust wall, the building looks much more visually heavy and robust. So here also you can see this concrete brutalism and the brick brutalism together in this complex. This is another example by Louis Icahn in India, which is IIM Ahmedabad, and he have used the similar visual principle over there, but this is in brick brutalist style. So the similar way of series of arches were there in a much more modernized version. So these arches are in these cases are absolute semicircle, and the series of arches are there, so which is also, you can see the contextual connection between these arches, which can be seen in Lucknow and Delhi or Agra, where the series you have to pass the series of arch in a Mughal or Saracenic corridor, so which gives a similar connotation of this Indian ancient architectural history, and which has been translated into the modern or postmodern movement. So here also similar concept has been added. So this also gives a texture of the arch from outside, but covered with the brick, and this arch is also there, and the similar elements are there. So here also the same treatment has been done, which has he have used in the in Dhaka. And also you can see this this wall, which also works as a functional element, as this cuts down the sun, because Ahmedabad is in a hot and dry area. So the sun is the amount of more sun, if more amount of sunlight comes within the within the interior, so the climatic condition will livable condition of the building will not be won't be suitable. So that's why this kind of walls are added on top of it as a functional element as well, and also you can see the similar treatment are there. Now this is an extension of IIM Ahmedabad, which is designed by Bimal Patel, the HCP construction, and where the similar few similarities has been taken from the context has been taken from IIM Ahmedabad's the main campus designed by Louis Icahn, but this is designed in concrete brutalism, and here you can see the concrete formwork is visible, and the screws to hold the formwork is also visible. And here there's a mixture of concrete brutalism and the brick brutalism, and also there's a solid robust wall, and fenestration was kept in a particular corner, gives adds to the more solidity of this building. Now, as I was telling, is it might be might be concrete, it might be brick, but it sometimes might be the native material, might be something else. So this is IIM Bangalore, designed by B.V. Doshi, one of the famous architect of India. In Bangalore, this stone was is a locally available material. So using stone was much more economic, and it also gives the connects the nature and the context with the building. So instead of this brick or concrete, he used stone to design the IIM Bangalore's building, but the style and approach of this IIM Bangalore's building was quite similar to the brutalism. So this here the brutalist movements, style and features has been translated with the with a locally available material, which is stone from the local stone quarry. So from outside also it has a very robust look, and the similarity is if you look at there was a lot of similarity with the brutalist movement, but the material was changed into the stone. So in the next class we will discuss metabolism, and later we will discuss what is the neo brutalism and how in Indian context many of the famous architects have used neo brutalism. So in Indian context, how the neo brutalist movement has an impact. Thank you.